This is a video not a lot of people want to watch, but you absolutely need to. Because if you're running a family farm operation in 2025, you can absolutely feel the pressure building, the decisions that you're making feeling heavier and heavier, and the uncertainty creeping into your operation. You're watching this video because something is off and you know it. Maybe it's your debt levels and where they're at. Maybe it's the lack of a plan for your operation for this year. Maybe you're finally tired of pretending like everything's fine when deep down, you know it's not. Inside today's video, I'm gonna talk about what's really going on behind the scenes of today's family farm crisis. Not just the surface level stuff like prices, weather, or equipment costs, but the core issues that are slowly destroying generational family farms from the inside out. Most people today don't even know that debt levels inside of the ag industry are at the highest levels they've ever been. And the key problem with this is that we've honestly just normalized it. We've experienced this working with our customers inside a legacy farmer over the past couple years, where the numbers at the end of the day just become a number because there's no real value attached to it. And what I mean by that is we've had customers say over the years that, oh, it's just another zero. Think about that. Think about the implications there of not respecting the dollar amounts that are flowing through your operation because levels have gotten so big and the numbers have gotten so big, we've kind of become numb to it at some point and some level. And that's what I mean by saying we've normalized this. The numbers have become so big, it's just common conversation now. And the biggest problem with this is that the farmers have gotten so used to it that they're not tracking their numbers and respecting those dollars at the level that their operation demands, which is why we continue to see more and more people every year just normalizing restructuring debt year after year. You lose money, you have an additional balance sitting on your operating line of credit, you couldn't pay it off, so you go into your banker, same thing you did in 2024, maybe 2023, maybe 2022, and you ask to restructure and move that debt off your operating loan, and once again, pledge more of your hard-earned equity either in real estate or equipment to cover those losses. And this cycle is what I'm talking about when I say it's slowly destroying these family farm operations from the inside out. Because to the farmer, if all you're focused on is being able to farm next year and now you're just happy that the bank is refinancing and restructuring things once again, you're not considering the long-term consequences of those decisions. Because you might get lucky and maybe it'll work for your life, but what about your kids? What type of operation are you really passing down onto them when it's just covered and riddled with debt and no actual sound strategy to get rid of that debt and hand over and pass on a sustainable, profitable, and operation with a lot of equity built on its balance sheet? And if you are one of those farmers that continues to just restructure and refinance your notes and things like that, we call this the cycle of insanity inside a legacy farmer because, again, it's become so normalized that so many people are doing it year after year. And this is the thing that's slowly eating away all of those years that you sacrificed to build the operation and all the years of the generations before you that sacrificed to build the operation as well. All right, so now let's move on to interest rates. So no, interest rates are not at the levels they were in the 1980s, which honestly scared a lot of people back then. But the reality is it doesn't mean that 9 or 10% still can't wreak havoc inside of your operation today. A few points up on your interest rates today can cost your operation tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars over the long-term period of all of your notes. And here's the hard truth with this. If your operation was already fragile, then the higher interest rates are just exposing it that much more. The people that don't know their numbers at a detailed level, there's no way that they can handle these higher interest rates over the long term. They have to have a strategy in place. Now, the opposite side of this coin, though, is if you are structured, you are organized, and you know your numbers at a detailed level, the interest rates aren't going to impact you that much because you are looking at your numbers. The people that are going to struggle and potentially have their operations go under in today's economic environment with these higher interest rates are the ones who want to avoid the numbers. They want to hide from the numbers. They don't want to open bills because deep down, they know that there are problems inside of the finances of their operation, but they don't have the courage to face it, and they want to wait and just see how things work out at the end of the year. And I can tell you guys with absolute certainty, that is a guaranteed recipe to make sure that your operation does not get passed on to the next generation. So the one thing that these higher interest rates are really doing is exposing the operators that are flying blind with their numbers and living on a strategy of hope and prayer that everything works out at the end of this year. All right, so we've talked about debt levels, we've talked about interest rates, but now let's talk about the problem that's even beyond those, that is arguably the number one killer of family farm operations today, and that is no transition plan. Right now, on one side of this discussion here, I can see why people may not want to talk about it, because if you have massive debt problems inside your operation, you don't have a strategy in place to handle higher interest rates or input cost or whatever all the variables are that we're dealing with inside of the operation, why would you want to discuss this? Why would you want to talk about your kids coming back and passing on an operation when when deep down, you don't even know if it's going to be there for them to pass on. And honestly, you don't even know if you want to pass it on to them, because you know you're just passing on a debt-ridden operation there with no actual game plan of how to get rid of it and how to pass on an operation to your kids that's going to give them the lifestyle that you want to leave them, right? And give them an opportunity to really build and scale this thing. And I totally get that, right? From that point of view. Now, the other side of this, though, is if you do have your numbers in place, you do know them at a detailed level, you're handling and managing your debt the right way, and you have a game plan for combating these higher interest rates there, then why are you not having the conversation? Because we still see that side as well. Over the years of running Legacy Farmer, we've had more than 400 family farm operations come into our program. And I can still count on one hand the number of them that actually had a transition plan set up for their operation after they do pass away. That's a very scary metric, my friends, because at the end of the day, this is why I say this is the #1 killer for family farm operations in this country, is people not being willing to do what is required to have a transition plan in place, which means they may have to piss off some kids. They may have to have some really difficult conversations. Their kids may not like them for a while. But at the end of the day, do you want to pass on a generational family farm operation or not? Because it's up to you. It's 100% up to you. And whether or not you're willing to step into an area that a majority of people are not willing to step into, have hard conversations, make even tougher decisions there to make sure you're securing your life's work for the next generation. If you are willing to do that, congratulations, you're in the top 1% of farm operations inside of this country. And you've given yourself and your operation a real chance to succeed for multiple generations into the future. But if you're not willing to do that, I don't know what else to tell you. And that may seem mean, but the reality is you're going to pay a price either way. And it's either going to be the price of having tough conversations and making tougher decisions for the family farm operation, or you're going to pay the price of leaving your family with an absolute mess of an operation. And now you're running the risk of your kids fighting over assets, potentially suing each other over those assets, and just causing a lot of resentment and hate and trouble in their world after you're gone. The question is that really what you want your legacy to be? I'd bet not. So my friends, the truth is you cannot afford to ignore these problems any longer. Whether it's debt, interest rates, and strategy, or figuring out how to transition your operation successfully to the next generation. This is exactly what we created Legacy Farmer for, to help you get the clarity and the structure you need inside your operation to combat all of these problems that I've talked about inside today's video. Inside of Legacy Farmer, our members are tracking real financial data, planning for the succession of their operation, and creating a clear path forward for their family, for their team, and for their legacy. Now, if this is something you want and you know the time is now for you to take action, click the link below this video and schedule a free call with our team today.